Folks, calm down. The sky is not falling for Auburn basketball.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On Auburn for Friday, March 14th. This is your source of news, notes, and updates on your Auburn Tigers. I'm Lindsay Crosby, filling in for Zach Blackerby. He's handling a family matter, should be back tomorrow. Joined, like every single Friday and sometimes Wednesday and almost every single basketball game, Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, my friend and broadcast partner for minor league baseball. Dap, I want to get to the SEC tournament. Obviously, Auburn plays today at noon. I want to get to some of the Chad Baker-Mazara stuff and kind of some of the news around this, Bruce's quotes and all of that. But first, there seems to be this idea among people. It's not necessarily just Auburn fans who are catastrophizing. Like, that happens for fans, period. But even in some of the national media that's saying Auburn's on a 2-game losing streak, and now they're going to enter the tournament with all of these expectations and playing poorly right now, and they're in trouble. And I feel like Auburn's not actually that bad off, and the sky is not falling. Everything is fine. And the SEC tournament, it matters, but losing it is not the end of your season if you don't come out of this as a champion.
The amount of hand-wringing that has happened because Auburn accomplished something last week that they did not all year, and that is losing 2 basketball games in a row, is just, to me, an overreaction. And I don't want to say this in a way that makes it come across as condescending, but it's what fan bases that are used to having successful basketball programs do not react this way. Because they've been down that journey, they've seen it before, they recognize it, they're familiar. Understand that Auburn is used to playing with pressure. They're used to playing with somebody that says, okay, here it is. This is finally what we were expecting to happen, reality setting in. They're used to having the bullseye on their back all year. This is a senior-laden veteran team that's not going to get beat in the NCAA tournament because of pressure or lack of confidence or self-doubt. They may run into a team that just absolutely, like Alabama did last Saturday, shot it unbelievably, out-rebounds Auburn, whatever. But the panic and the hand-wringing over losing to the number 14 team on the road and the number 6 or 7 team at home by buzzer beater in overtime when you had a chance to win it in regulation is just a little too much. People need to pump the brakes and understand that this is a very, very good, historically good basketball team. It won't be defined. The end story won't be written. The final chapter won't be written until the end of the year. But to this point, and that's all we're talking about, that's all we can discuss is where we are on March 14th. To this point, this is a scary good, historically good Auburn basketball team that has accomplished a ton. And for people to worry about it because they lost 2 games in a row when that's happened a lot through the course of history with basketball teams that ended up doing well in the tournament is just an overreaction.
Yeah, in hearing you say that fans of historically good programs don't react like this kind of makes me feel like, hey, Auburn fans, Auburn fan base, we like to make the blue blood jokes. We like to talk about Auburn basketball as one of the blue bloods now. You have to act like that. Like, you can't just act like that when you're winning. You have to act like that when you're losing. And think about this team being in the situation, like in games that matter or that matter towards the overall season, the ability to win a regular season championship and all of that. Auburn was 27-2. Like you said, historically great, historically dominant. There's a chance we could look back at this in a month and talk about how this was one of the most dominant Auburn teams in school history. So you lost 2 games. Okay, guess what? Nothing has changed for the SEC tournament. Nothing has changed for the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying that the games didn't matter at all. Every game does matter to some extent, especially matters to the players, the people playing, the coaches, all of that. But the outcome of those games at the end of the day didn't really matter. It's kind of like in the NFL, is it annoying when your team goes 15-1 and then rests the starters and drops the last 2 games? Yes, that is annoying. But the reason why you probably lost those last 2 games was because you went 15-1. You're the best, most dominant team in there. You're locked into a number 1 seed. And so there was no need to push injured players to do more. There was no need to run up minutes on guys who needed a break. And I'm not saying that Auburn rested starters or anything like that, but you do handle these things differently when you know that the outcome of this individual game does not change the overall picture, which is winning a national championship. But when you look at the costs, what's associated with asking Janai Broome to go deep into a game, what's associated with all these different things, it's look at Cooper Flagg on Thursday. He leaves Duke's ACC tournament game with I think like an ankle injury. That's the kind of thing you're hoping to avoid. Auburn came out of these games for the most part without new injury concerns. We'll get to Chad Baker-Mazara and his concerns in a minute. But yeah, I'm not worried about this. I feel good about this program. I am completely comfortable going into today's SEC tournament game, knowing that this team is still primed to win the conference tournament and be a number 1 overall seed.
Well, a couple things. First of all, the Texas A&M game was of no concern to me because I really felt like Auburn, it was an afterthought. They rested Denver Jones. They tried to beat Alabama. The Alabama game mattered. Alabama beat Auburn fair and square, not because Auburn didn't take them seriously or because Auburn took the game lightly or because they rested people. That was a game that Auburn wanted to win really badly. So did Alabama. But at the end of the day, it's about perspective. And sometimes when you can get back and remember reality and say, okay, if I would have told you Auburn was going to go 27-4, win the SEC with 3 games left to go, split with Alabama, and win on aggregate, meaning they beat Alabama worse than Alabama beat them. So let's go soccer, right? Let's go aggregate score here. Talk about ending the Rupp thing, the Rupp curse. If I told you all that, they were going to beat Houston at Houston, they were going to boat race Purdue, they were going to win Maui, you would have taken that all day and on Sunday.
7 days a week and Sunday after church. There you go.
But you forget because of recency bias, and you don't look big picture when I say this. Now, the other thing is there is an ingrained mentality, I think, with a lot of Auburn fans that equate losing 2 games in a row in football, being a primarily traditionally football school, and how Auburn's, I get it, PTSD, what's happened in the last few years with Auburn football, to basketball. Oh my God, they've lost 2 in a row. It's not the same. Duke, Arizona, Kansas, North Carolina. It happens baseball too, all the time. Yes.
They dropped 1 game to Holy Cross, and you thought the season was going to end.
Yeah.
They dropped a midweek. They got walked off in a midweek, and you thought the sky was falling. And I'm like, guys, it is very hard to beat any team 3 times. You're going to lose 1 in a weekend. So yeah, it's there's a different mindset when it comes to basketball, when it comes to baseball too. You're not expected to go undefeated. It is increasingly unlikely that you will do that. And 1 loss is not the end of the world for you. So,
well, since I'm talking with the baseball guru, this is a wonderful point that you made, and I want to respond to it because I'm talking to my baseball compadre. You know where I grew up, and you know that Pac-10 baseball used to be the bomb. SEC, like everything else, has taken that over. But back in the 80s, Lindsay, when Mark McGuire was playing at USC and Barry Bonds was playing at Arizona State, it was I grew up in a golden era to be able to pay $3 and go watch Pac-10 baseball in Tucson.
Now they have to pay you to watch Pac-12 baseball.
They would. Arizona lost 2 midweek games to Grand Canyon, not University, Grand Canyon College. Back in the mid-'80s when they won the national championship, when they went to the College World Series and beat Florida State in 1986. They lost to Grand Canyon, and they lost to not San Diego State, but the University of San Diego. And everybody thought, oh, my God. I only say that perspective. From a baseball standpoint, if you want to say you're an everything school, act like it. Don't panic. Understand that these things happen, and it's part of the process when you are the hunted, period.
In just a second, talking about hunting and guys who kind of who get a lot of attention in games, we're going to talk about Chad Baker-Mazara. We'll do that next right here on Locked On Auburn. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Darrell, can you imagine wanting to go to a sporting event and having the guts, the size of a wallet to go to the box office and pay the normal prices for tickets?
No, I mean, and I've used Game Time. We've talked about it since I've done this show. I used the code the first time. It's an app. I love viewing my seats. I've gotten soccer tickets for the U.S. men's national team. I've gotten Pittsburgh Penguin tickets, Braves tickets. You name it, I've gotten tickets at Game Time. I've not been like Zach and got theater tickets, or I did go to a concert. I did get a concert ticket there. But
I have bought my wife helped a friend in the New York City Marathon last year. And so I bought them tickets off of Game Time for a Broadway show. I've bought hockey tickets spontaneously when I was in Las Vegas and was like, yeah, let's go to a hockey game. Why not? I've bought baseball tickets, tons of stuff. It's incredibly easy. The code's Locked On College. You get $20 off your first order. Like Darrell said, in the app, you can see the photos from the seats. This is where you will sit. They have an all-in price, covers all the taxes and everything, all the fees. Can't recommend the Game Time app enough. So download the Game Time app today. Use promo code Locked On College for $20 off your first order. Again, it's a Game Time app, promo code Locked On College. Welcome back to Locked On Auburn. Lindsay Crosby, Darrell Dapprich, filling in for Zach Blackerby. He's got a family issue. He'll be back probably tomorrow. I want to talk about Chad Baker-Mazara because he took a flagrant 2 against Alabama. It was the elbow to Chris Youngblood. Bama fans obviously wanted him not only to be ejected from the game, but kind of hung and quartered and things like that. And there was a lot of talk about, is he going to get suspended? And Bruce Pearl talked to the media and was asked if he had any additional conversations with CBM after the game. Bruce's quote was, "We're good." And somebody asked again about it. He's like, don't you think my conversations with him should be my conversations with him? Regardless if it's a retaliation or whatever, it's unacceptable, but I'm not going to talk to you about my conversations with all of my players. Do you feel like whatever Bruce and Chad talked about privately, are you worried that this is going to come back up again? Or do you think that Bruce is able to take care of this, where this is not going to be a concern for Auburn going forward?
I'm worried. I'm just going to be brutally honest because I think at this point, I referred to it after the Alabama broadcast as a double-edged sword. And it's you take the good Chad with the bad Chad, and you hope that the good Chad overrides what's going to happen in a negative effect, 8-1 or whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it just takes the one time for it to be very detrimental. I think at this point in the young man's life and in his career, he is who he is. I believe people can change. And he's emotional. It's what makes him such a good basketball player is he plays at such a high level of emotion, but it also can be his detriment. And he's got to learn to harness that. And I haven't seen – he can in stretches, but you want this to go. You want this to go away forever. You don't want it to go away for a extended period of time, and then an incident happens again and it's in the Final Four,
right,
or the Elite Eight. So that's my concern, is that Bruce Pearl has no choice but to play Chad Baker-Mazara because of the impact he has for the Auburn basketball. That team is better when he's on the floor. He does so many things. He's a Swiss Army knife to help you win. But what's going to happen is because of how he's wired, he has not shown me yet, keyword being yet, that he is able to not retaliate, not allow people to get in his head. So what Bruce Pearl needs to do is completely reinforce to him, we can win a championship if you fix this one aspect of your game. And I'm not even talking about him staying in the game. I'm talking about, imagine a world where people try to incite him and goad him, and he doesn't respond, and the officials call the initial thing. Like Bruce Pearl saying, hey, I'm going to get my guy under control. Watch what they do to try to goad and incite and antagonize. And if you don't respond, if you're Chad Baker-Mazara, and they get the flagrant 2, now it's win-win. Not only are you staying in the game, but you're taking one of their better players out of it. That's what has to happen. Because guess what? It's not double technicals that are happening. They didn't get the Yale kid last year that elbowed him down in the ribs on the way down the floor. They didn't get what Youngblood did earlier. But you know what? I don't care, because it doesn't matter what somebody else does. You're responsible for your own actions. And he has gotten to the point where he has gotten this reputation, not unfairly. He's earned it. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. He's earned the reputation. But the problem is the other stuff's not getting called. And so he goes to a higher level of upset because that's not getting called. I mean, he's not walking on the floor looking to elbow people in the back of the head because he's mad. He's not the girl that swung the baton at the other girl in the track race because she went ahead. It's a matter of retaliatory. And you got to figure it out, period. And if you can figure it out, not only is it such a great advantage that you stay on the floor and you're an integral part of this team, you might get somebody else a flagrant 2, and now you're shooting free throws to extend the lead. That's how important it is.
Yeah, and I think, everybody who knows me knows, huge basketball guy. I'm always consuming all of this stuff. The Field of 68 podcast, Charles Barkley went on there the other day, and he had a really great little thing about this. He addressed this, and I went and listened. I listen to it all the time, obviously, but I went and pulled the transcript of this. Here's the quote of what Charles Barkley said about this situation. Quote, Chad has got to be really careful with his emotions. Nick Saban, the greatest coach in college football history, says, I want you to play with emotion, but don't be emotional. I asked him about that one time, and if you go back, he says, especially in big games where you're really excited, all of the TV networks are there, the fans are going crazy, because one emotional decision gets you tossed from a game or gets you a penalty. Playing with emotion and being emotional are two different things. End quote. I'm kind of in that same boat as you of I am a little bit worried about this. Like, I don't necessarily know. This is fixable. Like, this is 100%. This can be fixed.
It's manageable, not fixable.
Well,
I don't believe it's fixable. It's manageable. Right. I
think over the course of, like, if Chad Baker-Mazara were to go on to play professionally at some level, at some point in time in his life, we're going to be able to say he has fixed this problem. But right now, given the short time frame you played a day, you last played on Saturday, you play hopefully 2 more times over the weekend, and then you play in the tournament. You have to manage this right now. And the thing that I kind of worry about, I don't know how likely it is, but he can't play without that emotion, but he needs to not be emotional. It is a fine line to manage. I think your idea of Bruce Pearl saying, hey, this is the thing that will let us win a championship, I think that is the way to approach this in the short term. And then longer term, there's more things that he can do to work on being less emotional on the court. But this is the thing that you kind of have to do. And part of me wants to think that maybe privately Bruce kind of let him know, like, hey, like, we can probably save you this time. If it happens again, you're going to have to be suspended by the conference, by us, by somebody. But hopefully this is something that we can manage through today and the weekend. Hopefully we're playing 3 games this week and into the NCAA tournament where hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us, like you said, in the Elite Eight or Final Four or something like that. Any kind of final thoughts on that before we transition away?
Bruce Pearl has a big responsibility to also read body language and understand his player like no one else can and engage that temperature. Meaning you can kind of tell, Lindsay, from sitting on your couch when he's about to go off and maybe about to do something stupid. If you're coaching from the bench, as soon as you see that, even if you got to burn a 30-second timeout and get him out of the game, get him out of the game.
Yeah.
I think sometimes he's left in too long to percolate and simmer, and then it's too late. And you got to get – as soon as you start gauging it and you see that look, get him out of the game, sit him, cool him down, then put him back in. Because I think you can gauge it. I think you can tell and read the room when it's about to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Zach's not here. You want to talk a little baseball?
Let's do it, man.
Auburn versus Vanderbilt this week. We'll get to that next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay Crosby filling in for Zach Blackerby, joined by Darrell Dapprich. And Auburn hosts Vanderbilt this weekend for 3. This is a really interesting series for Auburn. The start of conference play, the Tigers have been very good this season. They've only lost 3 games. Their 3 losses, a little bit of frustrating manner to be 14-3, right? They dropped 1 of 3 to Holy Cross on that weekend. They dropped the midweek at UAB. They got walked off on a Wednesday. That was the game after they flew back from Arlington. They got stuck in extra time because of weather out there in Texas. And then they dropped 1 of the 3 to Old Dominion over the weekend. So they've lost 2 Saturday games now.
The Old Dominion one was one where they gave up a 7-run lead, and that's the one that kind of stings a little bit when you look at the big picture.
Yeah, I was talking to Sonny DeShera on the Barn Baseball Show earlier this week, and we kind of talked about, I was trying to figure out from him how much of that is something that makes you worry and how much of that is like, baseball happens and sometimes you have that kind of thing. And to me, I'm kind of in the middle on that. Like you will have collapses. You'll watch every team collapse from time to time. It's if it happens again is where I have a little bit of concern. I do think the issue you have on Saturdays, and we have gotten the starters for this weekend. It's the same group of guys. Sam Dutton on Friday, the LSU transfer, Cade Fisher on Saturday, and then Sunday's going to be freshman Christian Chatterton. But it feels like that Saturday, the Cade Fisher start, although Fisher didn't start on the Holy Cross loss, but he's not going very deep into these games. He's working his way back from that lat injury. And so because of that, you have to use your bullpen a little more in that game. I wonder if that has any relation to your Saturday collapse last week. And I'm curious to see what happens with Cade Fisher this week against a top 15 team in Vanderbilt, who I believe Vanderbilt baseball's only 3 losses are all to Power 5 schools. I want to say they lost to Nebraska, who was ranked at the time. I believe they lost to, and that was like the first week of the season, they lost to UConn and they lost to USC, like USC West, not East. So 2-1 feels realistic this weekend, but I could see how it could be 1 or 2, I think, and it all kind of comes down to the pitching.
Well, I was there for the Sunday game, and Chatterton threw a gem. I mean, That's how you respond. And Myers, I thought, pitched really well, too, coming in to relieve him. I believe that's who it was. Was it Myers? Yeah,
Carson Myers.
Carson Myers came in and really did a good job of keeping things in tow. Chatterton impressed the crap out of me. I mean, just, the way he moved the ball around, in and out, up and down, off speed. He really threw he pitched the absolute game that Auburn needed after blowing a 7-run lead Saturday. Those things matter.
Yeah.
You know what it is, Lindsay, the stopper. Okay, whether it's stopping a losing streak or whether it's just trying to salvage a game after you got a bad taste in your mouth from the previous night. So I was very impressed. I was impressed with the way they swung the bats on a miserable weather day.
Gross.
I think that, the Vanderbilt's, for some reason, even when Auburn's been really, really good and has gone to College World Series, I can't remember Auburn, winning a season series against Vanderbilt. Even the teams that went to Omaha, they've just had Auburn's number a little bit. This is the time to put that to bed with this lineup, which you're talking about as far as the pitching rotation and the way they're swinging the bats. Now, to me, and you would know more about this, you got to have Ike Irish for this series, I think, to win the series. And I don't know if you have an update on what he's looking like as far as playing ability.
Full disclosure, we're recording this before I head to the ballpark to meet with Butch Thompson for media. The assumption is that he's going to be in there. Just those of you who missed this, got hit by a pitch last Saturday in like the small of the bat, kind of, just above the kidney area. Came out of that game, didn't play on Sunday, didn't play on Tuesday. I've been told by people in the locker room, the bruising on his back is wicked and it's painful. He wants to play. They held him out on Sunday and Tuesday. My belief, and again, we'll know more by the time this show goes up, actually. My belief is that he'll be in the lineup, but we don't know that for a fact as of time of recording. But here's the thing. You've done what you've done this season without him really getting going. He's batting .278 on the year, which is very not an Ike Irish thing to do. You've got 3 guys batting over 400, another 3 batting over 300. If you sort this team by batting average, he's like your 9th best hitter right now. Now, obviously, he is probably your best hitter in your lineup.
And it's just a matter of time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it could be that matter of time could be this weekend where you need. But I've been very impressed by the catcher that's filled in.
Chase Fralick?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that he was a former tennis player, and Butch was talking about that's why he's got such good hands. They shifted on him, Lindsay, every time he got up. And I'm going, when are you going to learn? When are you going to learn that
lace it the other way?
He can put it and he laces it the other way. And they talked about, that tennis experience, which is kind of a cool thing. I've been really impressed by him. Defensively, I've been impressed by him. So I think the depth's there, but you just know it's a matter of time that powder keg's going to get going. And what better than against Vanderbilt to get some key RBIs, some key at-bats, some key hits to kind of you're going to need it, I think, to win this series.
Yeah, I feel good about this. I'm not in any way predicting a sweep, but I feel like Auburn's going to do well. Weather impacts are going to be fun to watch for. 6 p.m. on Friday, 6 p.m. on Saturday, 2 p.m. on Sunday. It's possible there are some weather impacts on Saturday, which push this to a Sunday doubleheader. There is a mandatory finish time on Sundays, so it's possible they have to move that first game up to like 11 or 12 to get it started in time to get the second game done. I don't know if they're allowed to go to 7 innings or not. So just if you're planning on watching or going to these games over the weekend, keep watching social media to see what they do for the weather that's supposed to come in, the pretty bad storms on Saturday.
Also Friday, there's some storms that are coming in Friday late, in the evening. So they may try to push that start time up to 4 p.m. or something like that to get it in. I'm not James Spann. I wish I was, but I would be shocked if Auburn played a game on Saturday.
Yeah, it really feels like it's not going to happen. And it feels like my guess would be by the time this show comes out, they will have made an announcement if they're going to move something. So again, apologies, folks, for recording this before one of those announcements is made. Darrell, where can folks go to get more of you and just all of your amazing Auburn sports takes?
You can follow me on X, DAP6410, Instagram, Darrell Dapp, Wednesdays and Fridays, Locked on Auburn, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. And then we've been doing a little fun show on Sunday nights from the barn. Kyle Rush, Zach, and I, 8 p.m. Sunday nights. We do a live show, 3 of us, kind of recapping the Auburn Sports Week, Athletic Week. We'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure, this Sunday. And then we're going to try to work around. I'm going to be out of town a little bit. We're going to try to work around doing a little NCAA selection show Sunday night that Zach and I have done 3 years running now, looking at Auburn's bracket, sites, all that kind of stuff.
That'll be fun. You can follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. All of the different pods, Braves Today, the Barn Baseball Show over at the Barn, me, Sonny the Sheriff, Brad Law. We'll have, by the time this comes up, we have both me and Sonny talking earlier this week, and me and Brad previewing this Vanderbilt series. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, wherever you get your podcast, subscribe. Until next time, this has been Locked On Auburn.